Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Nielsen Networking video. This is going to be the first video of a new series that I'm putting out on how to use the built-in security tools that are part of Kali Linux. Now that said, the first tool I picked to go over is known as nmap, and that is nmap. And nmap is used mostly for network scanning and mapping, and it is honestly my go-to choice when I need to get a quick scan done to verify that we don't have any, rogue or shadow IT devices on the network. And if I happen to find a device, I can then take nmap and do a more thorough scan, and then I can, do things like verify the operated system, what service it has running, ports open, et cetera, et cetera. And I will be showing you the most used scans for vulnerability scanning along with penetration testing. And at the end of that video, I will even show you how to use some pre-built scripts that I will show you how to go out and download that can take nmap to an even further level. Now, nmap is open source and of course free to use. And while it's not a full-blown vulnerability scanner like Nessus, it also doesn't cost thousands of dollars per year in license fees. Now that said, I do have a short video if you wanted to check it out on where we installed a Nessus scanner on a VirtualBox machine, and we use their, it's called Essential Core, where they allow up to 16 IPs to be scanned. So anyway, if you wanted to check out Nessus, check out the link at the end of the video for that. All right, and the first thing you're going to want to do is get into Kali Linux. And I happen to be using Kali Linux as a virtual machine inside of VirtualBox with two other virtual machines running in VirtualBox. I have a Windows 10 machine in here and a Windows 7 machine that we set up in previous videos that I'm now going to use as a test environment, if you will. So back to Kali Linux here. I'm going to go ahead and open up a terminal, and I'm going to expand, and we're going to start with a very simple command, which is known as nmap-h, and this is going to be your help. Very basic help. It gives you some of the switches that we're going to be going over today, some descriptions of those switches, and then it tells you if you want more information to go to the man file. And to do that, you would obviously do man nmap. And there you go. Even more in-depth information if you wanted to go through that. And of course, if that's not enough, you could always go to good old Google because everything's out there on Google. So that's the first command we're going to learn, which is nmap-h. All right, the first real scan we're going to do is a type of scan I use for network discovery, and you don't even have to be root to run this one. We're going to do -sn, and you're going to go ahead and put your subnet range in. Mine is 10.0.2.0. You could also write this as 0/24, however you wanted to do it, and then go ahead and hit enter, and we'll wait. It should be quick, and it's going to come back up here and say that it found 3 hosts. Now you could do this a more thorough way, but it would require root, and you'd have to put a sudo in front of it, and then you would have to add the PE to it and run it again, and it's going to show more devices, but it's actually going to show multiple network cards. So it doesn't give you the most accurate result of actual hosts out there, because I can tell you there's only actually 3 machines that are, there's the Kali Linux, there's Windows 7 and 10. So we're getting 6 of there, but there should only be 3. So anyways, that's the first scan you would want to run. Just that doesn't, run port scanning or services or OS identification, any of that. It's just a basic go out there, see who's alive. It's almost like typing arp-a, if you will, and seeing what's out there on the network. Okay, with that said, let's move on to the next command. All right, first scan that's actually going to give us some very interesting results, which will be sudo nmap, and the switch you're going to use is S, lowercase s, uppercase s, and then your subnet. Hit enter. This can take a fair amount of time depending on how many devices that you have on your network. So just hold tight. Okay, and I only had 3 devices out there, but it found some other things, and what it found was these are all parts of VirtualBox, the virtual infrastructure. It's probably the virtual switch, the virtual network card, maybe the virtual router. For whatever reason, it found all 3 of them. I know this is the default gateway. So anyway, scrolling down to the actual important stuff here, this is going to be one of our hosts, and I can tell by looking at it, this is the Windows 7 host, and I can tell because look, port 80 is open and it's running HTTP, and I know I turned on IIS on that machine, and I also know I enabled remote desktop, which runs on port 3389, which is open. It's running right here. Scrolling down here, I know this is the Windows 10 machine because process of elimination tells me that, well, that's Windows 7. This has to be because look, it's running at BIOS. So you can just tell. And now going down here, that only leaves this to be the Kali Linux. And if we really wanted to verify, we could obviously do, ifconfig. And of course that pans out. Now that's all great, right? But that's a lot to look at. So let's say you wanted to put this into a text file. You could just pipe it, or not pipe it, redirect it into a text file and let it run, and there it goes. So now if we do an ls here and we do a cat results.txt, you can see they're all there. And obviously you could go in and do, or you could use VI, whatever floats your boat. So you could go through here and look at it a little easier, or you could transfer it off to another server or whatever. So that is how you could go ahead and do that command, or that trailer with nmap. It's all the same command, but I'm going to say command over and over again, just force the habit, so bear with me. Okay, if you wanted to use nmap to scan specifically for TCP ports that are open or UDP, you can do that as well. And you would do that using sudo nmap with a dash lowercase s, uppercase T for TCP. If you didn't want to do TCP, you would then put UDP. And I'll go ahead and show you UDP because we've already looked at TCP. So let's check the Windows 10 box and see what UDP ports are open. And it should return none, but we'll wait and see. Okay, and it just finished, and it is showing that all 1,000 scanned ports on the IP we scanned are in ignored states, meaning either they're behind a firewall or they're just closed. So that is what we expected when we scanned that machine, so this makes sense. All right, let's move on. All right, next thing we're going to do, we are going to scan a specific IP address to see if a specific port is open on that IP address. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a sudo, and we're not going to do that. We're going to do port 53, and we're going to scan this guy. So again, it's sudo because you have to run this as root, nmap space -p, the port number you want to scan, and the IP address that you want to scan to see if the port is open on. So we're going to go ahead and hit it. And sure enough, TCP port 53 is open, which I expected because this IP address is the default gateway for our VirtualBox infrastructure that is pushing out DNS DHCP. So next, we'll run it against ourselves. In our Kali Linux box here, it should show closed. And it does. Next thing, we'll go ahead and we'll run it out against, we'll go external, and we'll run it against Ford.com. And as you can see, it's showing filtered, which means it's closed. We didn't get a response. And then the next thing we can do is, let's say we wanted to run a report against a specific device. You can do that with a nmap -p- space and then the IP address. So we want 10.0.2. We're going to run this against the Windows 7 box to see all what's open on that because that's probably our most vulnerable target. It was designed that way. So let's see what comes up. Okay, so as you can see, that the Windows 7 box has, port 80 open for IIS, has a remote desktop open down here, has a bunch of other stuff, and then it has these unknowns, which it's kind of a red flag, right? A bunch of unknown open ports on your machine. So that's that. Another way that's not necessarily the port number, but you can actually do the service name. So what we'll do is, let's do this. Instead of port number, we can do like HTTP, right? And now we can do 10.0. Sorry, my brain froze a little bit there. And we'll do it against port 6 again to see if HTTP is running because we saw that it was. So it should return yes. And as you can see, it is. It's open, right? So same thing should be if we do it against HTTPS, right? And sure enough, it is. So that's another way you could do it. And obviously you could change the service name to, DHCP, IMAP, SMTP, yada, yada, yada. You get the point. So that's how you would scan for a specific port or service. So moving on. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to try to identify the operating system of a given IP. So to do that, we're going to go and, actually, we're going to sudo as always. And we're going to go nmap, and we're going to do uppercase O. And we're going to put the IP. And we're going to go with our Windows 7 box again, because that will likely give us the results, because it's pretty old, and yes, it does. So it shows up as running Windows 7. Now, chances are if we did this and we tried to run this against, well, you know what, we'll run it against all of our devices. And instead of doing, the 0/24 or the asterisk, if I could find the asterisk, we're going to run it against an actual file. So let me go ahead and make sure that file is in this directory. It is. It's actually in iplist.txt. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run that same command, but I'm going to do a -I and an uppercase L, lowercase I, uppercase L, and then I'm going to put the IP list there, and we're going to let it run. And when we're done, we should get the results for all 4 of these IPs. So of course this would be really helpful if you had a list of servers that you knew or whatever you wanted to run it against. You could just point it to that text file. So we'll go ahead and let it finish running. Okay, and it's finished. And if we go up top, first thing it ran it against, looks like it ran it against the gateway. So it wasn't really able to identify it there. Scroll down next, it is our Windows 7 box, which we already looked at. Windows 7. Next, it's the Windows 10 box. And, oh, it thinks it's Windows XP, Windows 7. So it's 89% sure. So it's not extremely accurate there. It was definitely able to say it was a Windows. We could search for this using the, you put a --OSS scan -guess against it, and it actually forces it to look a little more, but that can throw off, if you're running this and you're trying not to be seen, that can throw off like intrusion detection systems and things like that. We're not going to do it for this, just if you wanted to. And then the last run, it ran it against Kali Linux, and it's just saying there's too many fingerprints, probably because this distribution of Linux has been forked too many times, so I can't find it. But that's how you would use the list, and that's how you would do the --O to run the OS identification. And let's go on. And the next one we're going to do is kind of the accumulation of all the other ones. It's going to give us the OS detection, it's going to give us the ports that are open, it's going to give us the services that are running on those ports, but it's also going to go a step further and identify what those services are, or try to. And you'll see, it gives us a lot of information, and it's all of it. And that's ironic because the switch is actually a --A. So what we're going to do is we're going to do, the sudo nmap -A, and then you could either do IP or subnet. I'm going to do the IP list again. So again, that's a --I, and then the name of the IP list. I'm going to go ahead and run it. This will take some time because it's going to gather all that information and display it on the screen here. So I'll come back to you when it's done. Okay, and it looks like it finally stopped here, or finished. And if we scroll up, we can see how much stuff there is. So let's check this out a little bit together here. Okay, first thing it returned was our VirtualBox, and what you can see is it's showing that 53 is open again, so DNS is open, as we already are aware. And then as we scroll down, we can see Linux, and that doesn't surprise me because VMware is very Linux heavy. So that's all we're pretty much getting out of there. The trace route returned nothing because it was pretty much the last hop anyway before it goes out of our network as far as it's aware. Next box is the Windows 7 box, and as you can see, it has everything in the world open. But it takes it a step further. Before we saw that port 80 was open and we knew it was HTTP, but look, now we can even see what version of IIS it is. There's risky methods that you can use to exploit vulnerabilities. There's the server header. There's other things in here. You can even see the, scroll down here a little bit. You can actually see the workgroup name, service pack, whoops, and you just get a lot of information. We could spend all day going through this, but we're not going to because we got other things to do. And we're going to go down here, and let's keep going down, looking for the next machine. Okay, here's the Windows 10 machine. And as you can see, it's much better than the Windows 7 machine, but it's still showing a few things open up. Nothing that appears to be any red flags, so that's looking pretty decent actually. And our Kali Linux box looks pretty good here. It's not showing anything that's open. And of course, the hop is 0 because we were running it from ourselves. So that's to be expected. So overall, this looks pretty good. So that's kind of the granddaddy of the combo commands, if you will, that puts all the information together. I would recommend you redirect that into a text file. And then you could review it using, like VI or Nano or whatever. You could throw it on a Windows box and use Notepad++ or whatever you wanted to use. So, all right, on to the next thing. Okay, and the last two switches before I get into the scripts are going to be the timing switches. This is the first one. And to do that, you would just do nmap. And you could do whatever one you wanted. We're not going to really run this, so it doesn't matter. SU, you would put this in at the very end. You could put a --T, and you can pick between 0 through 5. So if you put 0, that would mean you are paranoid. That's the most cautious, the slowest. It's not going to rock the boat. If you put 5, it's like guns are blazing. I don't care if I set off the thing. I don't. No one's watching, or you're an internal known vulnerability scanner, and you don't care if they know because you've told them you're going to run an intrusive test. So those would be your options for that. The switch after that is going to be a host timeout, where again it kind of goes with you don't want to flag yourself, or maybe you don't care, so you have two you know different spectrums you could go to. So what you're going to do is you're going to put it's going to be host timeout, and then you would put the time. Now it can be in seconds, minutes, or hours. For seconds, you would put 1 second. For minutes, it would be 4M, and for hours, it would be, let's just say, hours. So you get it? So let's just try this one real quick. Yeah, UDP takes a long time. So let's put our host timeout for 10 seconds and see if it times us out. Oops, you need to root. Forgot we were root all day long, and then we forgot this. Okay, let's go ahead and wait and see if this actually gives us the timeout. And let's check it out. Skipping host due to host timeout. So as you can see, it did timeout. And again, those are things you're only going to really use if you're worried about tripping up an intrusion detection system or things like that. So I just thought I'd mention them because it is good to know. And again, you could add those switches to any of the Linux commands we've done today. So good to know. And now we're going to move on to the scripts I promised. All right, well, I've moved out to our scripting well, I guess it's okay. We're all family after this video. Our scripting directory, where I have some scripts that I went out and downloaded for this video. So checking them out, we have 3 .nses, which are nmap scripting engine scripts, if you will. And I went out and got these from our good buddies over here at nmap.org. And under scripts on nmap.org, there's a whole listing of a bunch of pre-made, do not recreate the wheel, look here first, scripts to do a ton of things. A lot of them do kind of similar vulnerability scanning to what Nessus can actually do, but for free versus, the 10 grand or whatever you pay per year for Nessus. So there's a lot of stuff out here. You can brute force MySQL. There's just tons of stuff. I couldn't even go into all that's here. And when you find one you like, let's check one here. This looks good. So we're going to go in here and you get the script summary, you get the different arguments you can use, an example of how to use the script, how it should look with the output, and then to download it, you would just click right here. And then you would cut and paste. You have to do a Control A, Control C, paste it in, you're good. And if you actually look at the script itself, it even tells you how to use it right inside it. It's really, these are really well designed and maintained scripts. So this is kind of a hidden gem. If you don't know about this and you're using nmap, you're missing out. So let's go back over here and we're going to run the first script. And that's going to be the script where we're going to check to see if SMB signing is disabled. And it's disabled by default on Windows machines, and that's a known vulnerability. You actually need to go into the registry and create a key to enable SMB signing to remediate that vulnerability. But let's go ahead and run it. And what we're doing here is obviously we're running nmap, we're doing UDP, we're doing full TCP stack, the script, and it's telling you where the script or what the script is named. Then it's going to go ports, UDP, TCP, and then it's telling it the script name is this. So we're going to go ahead and run it, and we're going to look at the results. So let's check it out. Up top, we got our VirtualBox, and it's given us no results because it's not running SMB, obviously. And the only machine that appears to be, looks to be our buddy, the Windows 7 machine. And as you can see down here, script results, SMB signing, and it is showing you that they use the guest account, and it is actually showing you that it is disabled, which is the default, which is bad. So this is a machine we'd want to go out and enable SMB signing via the registry to get rid of this. Now this is helpful. Let's say you needed to run this on a whole network and you didn't have the funds for an SS scanner. You could actually run this same exact command, but put your entire subnet here instead of this IP list, or put all of your IPs in an IP list and run it against that entire thing, redirect it to a text file, and then cat that text file and grep this term right here. And then it would pull out just the results of the scan that have this in it. And then you would know, okay, these are the machines I need to go and remediate this SMB signing problem. So that's one way you could use that. Now let's get on to the next one here, the next script, which we're going to use to pull some information on the ciphers random sites are using, or IPs, I should say. So we're going to go ahead and paste this in here, and we're going to look at it. Again, we're doing nmap. We're going to do it V because we want to know the full version. And then the script, it's telling it to use the SSL script here, port 443, which is SSL. And then I'm using my IP list again. We're going to run it. And we'll wait a second. This one may take a little bit longer because we use that, that uppercase V command. It takes a little longer to get those results. And of course, as I say that, the commands or the results all drop. So let's go and check it out. Let's see what we got here. Let's see what we got going on. All right. First things first. Okay, our VirtualBox is closed. No results there. But our buddy, Windows 7, never failed to deliver. So if you look at it, okay, it's going to say, bleh, sorry, long video. It has IIS running, and it's running. Check out what it's running. Let me scroll down a little bit more. Okay, it has SSL version 3, which, that's deprecated. And then it's even warning you that, look at this. You could throw it's literally telling you right here, if this were a machine and you wanted to be the bad guy, it is vulnerable to the Suite 32 attack. I have a video on that on my YouTube channel if you wanted to check that out on how to remediate that. Then you go down here and you look at this, it's also running TLS 1.0, which is another deprecated protocol that should be disabled. And again, it's telling you again, same thing. So as you can see, this box is in bad shape, which we kind of knew because I kind of set it up for failure. But anyway, these are the things you'd want to look for on your network while you're running these scans. And you see these scripts, I didn't have to do anything other than go out, download it, figure out the command to run it and execute it. And it's giving me some really valuable results to tidy up my network and get these machines that are just sitting out there, unbeknownst to me that, at any point some, threat actor could get inside my network by any means and, execute a command and get inside and, who knows what they're going to do. So those are the two scripts. Again, there's tons of them out there. I think that's going to be a wrap for this video. As usual, if you found this helpful, I would greatly appreciate a like if you want to get future content, because remember, this is just the first of a series. We're going to go through a lot of these other security tools that are embedded in the Kali Linux distribution. Subscribe for future videos. I'm going to try to get one out, maybe another one within a day or two, and then it may take a little while because unfortunately I have to go back to work. So again, subscribe, hit the notification button, like it, do anything you want to do with it. And with that said, you have a great rest of your day.